The Hero, Part 2, Home. Jeremy remembered almost nothing about getting home. He remembered the relief he felt when Luke Harper's boots touched the ground, and hearing Owen Pike laughing and crying at the same time while firefighters moved his harness. He remembered Ben Carter touching ground, safe, all safe. After that, a fog of pain. The headache was relentless. It felt like someone was hitting his brain with a hammer over and over. At some point, he realized his shirt was covered in blood, but the pain in his head took all of his attention. Everything was a blur except for the pounding. Then he heard his mother's voice. She sounded worried. He tried to tell her everything was fine, but attempting to open his mouth caused the pain to rush forward, slamming it shut. He carefully looked around and was surprised to see he was home on the porch. Then the darkness started filling the edges of his vision, and the last thing he heard was his mother hollering, "Ballard!" When he finally opened his eyes again, sunlight filled the room. His father was asleep in a chair beside the bed. That sight alone told Jeremy something was wrong. Dad never slept in chairs. He said it was bad for posture. Jeremy shifted slightly. The movement woke his father, who sat up quickly and leaned in. "We've been worried, son. Very worried. How do you feel?" How long?" 2 days. Jeremy blinked. 2 days? His father nodded. Jeremy tried to sit up. The headache immediately changed his mind. His father stood and handed him a glass of water. "Take it easy. You've been through an ordeal." "The men?" His dad smiled with a tenderness Jeremy never saw before. "They're fine. They're completely fine." Jeremy leaned back against the pillow. It was impossibly soft. His eyes closed briefly as the tension he didn't realize he was holding eased. Even the pounding slowed. He muttered, half asleep, "Good," then pushed back into the pillow and fell asleep. The room fell quiet, except for the ticking clock on the wall. Ballard watched his son sleep, watched the rise and fall in his chest. He looked peaceful now, very different from before. Even in sleep, he had looked pale and stressed, but now he looked calm. Jeremy sat up, screaming in pain. He held his head in his hands and cried uncontrollably. Deep sobs mixed with groans of agony. Ballard leapt to his son's side, asking if he could help, offering the pain medication the doctor had left, knowing how useless it had been, but wishing he could do something. Jeremy sobbed some more, then fell back into the pillow. His eyes rolled back as he lost consciousness. That's when Ballard noticed the blood. Even now it was trickling from his son's nose, beginning to cover the front of his shirt. Ballard panicked, moving from place to place in the room, not knowing what to do. He wanted to save his son, but he was confused and terrified. Then he stopped, telling himself, "Think. Think." He moved toward the phone, planning to call the doctor, even though it hadn't helped much so far. Just as he reached for it, it rang. Ballard froze. 1 ring, 2 rings. He lifted the receiver. "Hello?" A familiar voice answered. "Ballard?" With trembling hands, he replied, "Edwin?" "You need help." It wasn't a question. Ballard's voice was hoarse. "Yes. How did you know?" A pause. Then, "I know. I'll be right over. Make sure he's awake."